When your soul feels drained, recognizing emotional vampires and reclaiming your power. Have you ever left a conversation feeling completely exhausted? Not the good kind of tired that comes after deep connection, but a hollow emptiness, like something essential was extracted from you. That feeling, that unmistakable energy depletion, is more than just fatigue. It's a warning sign from your deepest self. I recently had the extraordinary opportunity to interview Kimberly Ely, a visionary advocate for emotional wellness whose work has transformed thousands of lives across the globe. Kimberly has dedicated her life to helping people recognize and respond to emotional manipulation, creating a ripple effect of healing that extends far beyond her immediate reach. Her insights on emotional vampires, gaslighting, and boundary setting aren't just informative, they're revolutionary. In a world where emotional abuse often hides in plain sight, Kimberly stands as a beacon of clarity, helping people reclaim their power with both compassion and unwavering resolve. What struck me most during our conversation was how universal these experiences are, yet how rarely we name them. We normalize relationships that leave us depleted. We question our own reality. When someone tells us we're too sensitive, we apologize for having perfectly reasonable emotional responses. And that's exactly what emotional vampires count on. You see, emotional vampires aren't the dramatic, cape wearing creatures of fiction. They're the friend who only calls when they need something, the partner who dismisses your feelings as overreacting, the family member who leaves you feeling smaller after every interaction. They feed on your energy, your compassion, your self doubt, and they're masters at making you believe that you're the problem. During my interview with Kimberly, she emphasized that recognizing these dynamics isn't about labeling people as toxic and walking away. It's about understanding patterns of behavior that harm us and developing the tools to protect ourselves. Let me share three powerful insights from our conversation that might just change how you view your relationships. First, emotional vampires follow predictable patterns. They don't just randomly drain you, they have specific techniques. They dismiss your emotions as excessive. They appear when they need something and vanish when you need support. They leave you feeling confused, diminished, or exhausted after interactions. These aren't isolated incidents or bad days. They're systematic behaviors that slowly erode your sense of worth in the relationship. Second, gaslighting is more common than we realize. It's a particularly insidious form of emotional manipulation where someone makes you question your own reality. Kimberly explained that when you find yourself constantly apologizing to keep the peace, feeling like you don't know what's real anymore, or being told you're crazy or making no sense, these are clear indicators of gaslighting in action. And third, boundaries aren't just suggestions, they're essential protection. When someone repeatedly disregards your expressed boundaries, it's not forgetfulness, it's disrespect. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Now, I want to share three powerful stories from Kimberly's research that illustrate these dynamics in action. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're lived experiences that might feel painfully familiar. The first examines what Kimberly calls the conditional relationship. Imagine a woman named Tara who found herself serving as an emotional safety net for her partner of 8 years. Whenever he faced a crisis, job loss, family conflict, financial stress, she would drop everything to support him. Late night calls, emergency loans, hours of emotional processing, she was always there, always available, always giving. But when Tara needed support, when she received a difficult medical diagnosis, when she lost her grandmother, when she faced her own career setbacks, her partner was mysteriously unavailable. Calls went unanswered, messages received brief, dismissive responses. Her emotional needs were deemed too much or bad timing. What initially appeared as being needed gradually revealed itself as exploitation. The emotional vampire consistently appeared during crises but disappeared when reciprocal support was required. Following Kimberly's guidance, Tara began documenting patterns of one sided support and implemented what Kimberly calls the reciprocity test, explicitly asking for support and observing the response. By recognizing the pattern of conditional presence, she identified the relationship as fundamentally unbalanced. Tara established new boundaries around her availability and emotional labor, requiring reciprocity in the relationship. When these boundaries were repeatedly violated, she made the difficult but necessary decision to step back from the relationship, freeing herself to invest in connections that honored her worth. The second story explores the gaslighting experience. Michael, a successful marketing executive, found himself increasingly anxious and uncertain in his 5 year relationship. What began as occasional dismissals of his concerns, "you're being dramatic," or "that never happened," gradually escalated to systematic reality distortion. When Michael expressed hurt over his partner's public criticism, he was told he was too sensitive. When he recalled promises his partner had made, he was told his memory was faulty. When he expressed discomfort with certain behaviors, he was told no one else would have a problem with it, that the issue was his emotional instability. Michael found himself constantly apologizing for reactions that were entirely appropriate. He began to doubt his own perceptions, his own memories, his own emotional responses. The fog of self doubt became so thick that he barely recognized himself. Following Kimberly's recommendation, Michael began keeping a journal to document incidents, consulted trusted friends for reality checks, and eventually sought professional counseling. Through external validation and documentation, he rebuilt trust in his own perceptions and recognized the manipulation. He developed the ability to recognize gaslighting in real time and established firm boundaries around how his emotions could be discussed. "My feelings are not up for debate" became his mantra. When these boundaries were violated, he had the clarity and courage to leave the relationship, beginning a journey of healing that restored his confidence and sense of self. The third story Kimberly shared was the energy drain relationship. Amara, a dedicated community organizer, noticed a pattern with a close friend of 15 years. What initially seemed like intense or deep conversations gradually revealed themselves as one sided emotional extractions that left Amara consistently depleted. After every lunch, every phone call, every coffee date, Amara would feel physically exhausted, emotionally drained, and strangely anxious. Her friend would share endless problems, seeking advice she never took while showing minimal interest in Amara's life. The friendship had become a one way energy transfer that was affecting Amara's health, work, and other relationships. Using Kimberly's techniques, Amara implemented energy tracking before and after interactions, created time limits for engagements, and developed post interaction self care routines. By recognizing the energy drain pattern, she limited exposure and protected her emotional resources. Amara successfully identified her personal energy depletion signals: the slight headache, the tightness in her chest, the sudden fatigue, and develop strategies to exit interactions before reaching complete exhaustion. She learned to say, I need to wrap up in the next 10 minutes, or I can talk until 2 o'clock, then I need to go, without guilt or apology. While she didn't end the friendship entirely, she transformed it from an energy depleting obligation to a carefully managed connection that no longer threatened her well being. As Kimberly so eloquently put it during our interview, your energy is your currency in this world. Be intentional about where you spend it. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but these people are my family, but we've been friends for 20 years. But they need me. I get it. Relationships are complex, and setting boundaries with people we care about can feel impossible. But as Kimberly reminded me, boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to healthier connections. When we set boundaries, we're not saying, I don't care about you. We're saying, I care about myself too. And that distinction matters. So, what can you do if you recognize these patterns in your own relationships? Kimberly suggests implementing what she calls a boundary audit in your relationships. This means documenting instances where you feel drained, dismissed, or devalued, identifying patterns of behavior rather than isolate incidents, establishing clear verbal boundaries around those behaviors, creating consequences for boundary violations that you're prepared to enforce, and building a support network that can provide reality checks when gaslighting occurs. As we navigate relationships, we often carry the additional burden of cultural expectations, the pressure to be endlessly strong, endlessly giving, endlessly available. These expectations don't just harm us externally, they become internalized, making us believe that setting boundaries is somehow selfish or weak. But here's the truth: softness requires strength, vulnerability requires courage. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say no to what depletes you so you can say yes to what fulfills you. As Maya Angelou wisely said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Emotional vampires show us who they are through consistent patterns of behavior. Our job isn't to fix them, it's to protect ourselves. I want to share an affirmation that Kimberly offered during our interview. My feelings are valid. My perceptions matter. My boundaries deserve respect. Try saying that to yourself tomorrow morning. Notice how it feels in your body. Recognizing these patterns doesn't mean you're a victim, it means you're becoming aware. And awareness is the first step toward transformation. The journey to reclaiming your power isn't easy. There will be resistance, both internal and external. There will be doubt. There will be the temptation to fall back into familiar patterns of self sacrifice and people pleasing. But I urge you, with all the conviction I can muster, to stand firm in your worth, to trust your perceptions, to honor your boundaries, to protect your energy with the fierceness of someone guarding their most precious resource, because that's exactly what it is. Your energy is not infinite. Your compassion is not a resource to be exploited. Your sensitivity is not a weakness to be manipulated. They are your power, your gift, your birthright. Today, I challenge you to make one small, courageous move toward reclaiming that power. Have one difficult conversation. Set one clear boundary. Walk away from one depleting interaction. Your future self, vibrant, empowered, and gloriously whole, is counting on you to take that step. Because a world of emotionally empowered individuals isn't just a personal victory, it's a collective revolution. And it begins with you saying, no more, my energy matters, my well being matters, I matter. Thank you